This episode of Sips is brought to you by Limerick Brewing Company, but it could be you. We are seeking sponsorships and have a variety of advertisement spots available. Message us for more information. Welcome back to Sips. This week's special guest is the owner of Terra Ferment and a key contributor to the Springfield Oyster and Beer Festival. Please welcome Bill Tubbs.
All right, you ready?
Go for it.
Okay, all right. Welcome to another episode of Sips, where we have good beer and even greater company. So today we have with us Bill Tubbs, a native of Lincoln, but also a bar owner himself, Terra Ferment on the square down in Springfield, and then also on the planning and execution committee for Springfield Oyster and Beer Festival, which is coming up last weekend in August.
Yep.
So Colleen is not here today. We killed her. And we'll be just moving on with just Troy and I.
So it's not just today.
Not just today.
We're still digging the hole.
Colleen who? All right. So Bill, let's start with Terra Ferment. Tell us about it, where it is, and all that stuff.
Terra Ferment is the bar that I opened in Springfield in late February of 2020. Great move, I know, good timing. After I had retired from working for the state for 27 years. And I opened the bar I wanted to go to because there wasn't one like it. So, and here we are 4.5 years in and survived COVID, survived a pipe breaking earlier this year. Wow. And but it's just been fun trying to do something a little bit different and try to provide beers from all around the world as much as I can and give people an alternative to go to in Springfield.
So your niche, though, is maybe beers that people haven't had or not easy to find.
Right. Well, yeah. Initially, I was just going to look at having all draft beers, only draft beers, and I have 24 taps. It's just a fraction of what you guys have here, but 24 taps, and I wanted it all to be either Midwestern specifically, but American small breweries as much as possible. But I also wanted half of them to be European, because I always felt that the imports have sort of been forgotten in this craft beer movement. So I set out to try to always have classic styles of European beers along with as many relatively Midwestern beers as possible, but from breweries that maybe you're not familiar with, or a beer from a brewery you are familiar with, but not a particular beer from them. Gotcha. I just make a couple of examples. Something like Blue Moon is available absolutely everywhere. So I carry Hoegaarden, which is the Belgian beer that it's based on. That's important to me for people to know that it came from somewhere. Classic lagers are becoming very popular in the US now with some small breweries, especially in Chicago, Dovetail, Goldfinger. But I also want you to taste German lagers, German Pilsners, and Hefeweizens and all that. You have Weihenstephaner here, so that's just a great example of a German Hef.
Very good seller for us.
I figure, taste the original if you can, and if you can't, then we'll get you really, really good American ones. And with the American beers, we're the kings of IPAs, so gotta have, and they're all over the place and they're plentiful, so why not have them?
Got to. Speaking of drinking, what was your first choice for us, Bill?
I think my first choice, I don't know if it was my first choice, but it's the one I think will go in a nice order here. The AleSmith, number 13.
Number 13, so it's the AleSmith 394 Pale Ale.
Pale Ale.
Yeah, so Slancha.
Cheers.
Cheers. And very good. Ooh.
Little orangey flavor in it.
Yeah.
A little citrus on that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Not quite. I was expecting it to be clearer, but it is I guess a San Diego style IPA. Still getting the fruit. It's hazy but not milky like some of the big hazies
super sweet.
or sweet ones.
Yeah.
So this has still got a nice hop component to it, but also relatively low ABV, which is nice.
What is that?
6.
A 6? Yeah.
6%, which is nice.
Not at all.
I like that.
So Terra Ferment, I said was right on the square in Springfield. You're kind of you're on 6th Street across from the
Yeah,
Herndon Law
we're
office.
just off, right across the street from the Herndon Lofts, right across 6th Street. And from our front, you can, at an angle, look right out at the old state capitol.
Gotcha.
So we are located in what was originally a jewelry store built in 1927, Tobin Jewelers. So they, I think, moved out in the 1980s out to the west side of Springfield, and then there was a coffee shop and small restaurant in there for about 20 years called Cafe Andiamo. And then they closed, I retired, and then I started working on the building and turned it into this,
Very cool.
nice.
Very cool.
Yep.
And before that, I got to know you. I mean, Troy, you went to school with Troy here in Lincoln. You're from Lincoln. So
Class
we'll
of
talk
78.
about that later.
There we
But
go.
I met you through the Brew Club.
Yes.
Down in Springfield. Through
Yeah,
Springfield Home.
one of my many beer-related things of the past. I was the president of the Prairie Schooners, which is the homebrew club in Springfield. Did that for several years, and much to my surprise, I think I'll just say surprise, at one meeting, in walks this guy, who I had maybe not seen.
You're like a bad penny.
in
you
like-
can't get rid of.
I did probably been 5 or 6 years since I had seen you. But at the same meeting was another one of our classmates, Dave Johnson, who I probably hadn't seen in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So I think it was shortly after that I decided to quit the club.
Probably a wise
Bill,
choice, yes.
choice.
But no, I mean that kind of started, my involvement sort of locally with beer-related things. It was because of being involved in the homebrew club that I got involved with the Cons, and when they were opening Obed and Isaac's, and with brewing help and things like that. And then that led to working on the S.O.B. festival. And that led, and everything kind of build on everything else, starting with, years ago, traveling and drinking beers in Portland, Oregon, and coming back to the Midwest and going, oh my goodness, I've got to learn how to make my own beer. And then it just sort of built on all the things that I got involved in, both, with the festival, with the homebrew club. I took some brewing classes at Siebel Institute in Chicago, thinking maybe I'd be a brewer. Then I got too
Bad
old
choice.
for that.
Bad choice.
Well, no, it just got to the point. It's like, no, that's a young man's job. I'm not a young man, so I will
You
pour.
were taking the train up there.
Yeah.
And going to class.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Nobody did.
But I'd rather pour beer and talk about beer than to actually have to make it.
Fair enough.
And
Fair enough.
I can blame, if any of the beers at my bar are bad, it's because the people who brewed them messed up.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't me. Unless I didn't clean the line.
Troy and I have hats and mustaches we put on, and then we go sit out front. So
And we blame,
Phantom brewers.
exactly.
we blame Jan.
Jan. It's
Or
Jan's
this
fault.
or this Colleen person.
Who?
Don't know
Yeah,
her.
well. She just knows how to drink beer.
She used to.
Oh, yeah.
She can't drink anything now.
Yeah, exactly. She's dead. So, moving on to the next beer. Number 7, it's going to be the Rheingeist Terror Bird, correct?
Yeah,
Imperial
let's do
IPA.
that.
8.5%.
Gotta finish this one.
Out of Cincinnati.
Ooh, I like that one.
So we almost always have, or frequently we have Rheingeist Truth, which is their base
that.
IPA, which is just spectacular. We often have that on. And I hadn't had this one before, so I thought we'd try a bigger IPA from them.
This is good. It's very good. Imperial IPA is always, I guess the best word is scare me. It's like 8.5. How many of those can I eat?
That's nice.
Down, but this one's really, really good.
And I think, that it's still a clear, not a hazy one. I mean, you need the hops get to come through, and you're tasting hops.
Yes.
I mean, it tastes like an IPA, not something that used to be an IPA.
You spoke of it, being too old. I think the hazy is definitely the next generation's IPA. I mean, I like the traditional. I like the West Coast. I like the, a little bit of funk.
I think the West Coasts are making a nice comeback.
They are.
Too.
There's some good ones.
You're
out
seeing
there.
a lot more of them being offered. You're even seeing the guys who make these monstrous hazy things like Hot Butcher for the World and Phase 3 in Chicago. You're seeing them. You see them doing West Coasts, just to prove that they can still do it if they want to. But I've got a ton of those hazy beers, and people love them, or they don't. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of folks who like both ways.
Yeah, true.
I think
we are in the category of not really caring for
you like
the
the
hazies.
West. You like the West Coast.
But we recognize it's a popular style. So we're going to brew one coming up. And I told him I want to call it just another pathetic sheep, but
That's a nice one.
think
You can name it
like the
after
name.
your dearly departed.
There you go, yeah. Formerly known as Colleen.
or-
The beer formerly known as Colleen.
yeah.
There we go. So
Might be a little stiff.
I like. That's a good one.
you guys, can you do a rim shot?
And could you do it loud enough that it covers everything we say?
He'll edit. Do the whole 20 minutes.
Can you take that out in editing? Yeah, I mean, even with those big hazy IPAs, I've gotten to the point that I know good ones from bad ones too. I mean, it's just like any other style of beer. There are some that are pretty remarkable, and then there are others just like, that's just a mess. And the same goes for any style of beer. I mean, there are brewers that are good at it, and there are brewers that are okay at it, and there are brewers that, well, we better do this kind of thing. So,
Keep serving food.
Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I get it. So, and I think we should explore the fact that you knew Troy in high school a little bit. So
I knew
before we
of
do
him.
that, let's go to number 18, which is the Allagash Belgian triple. They call it a triple ale, so I don't know if it's a true triple.
Triple, well,
I think it was a triple
I think
style.
Allagash is one of those brewers that is being very cautious about
Honoring the style name to where that style originated. You're going to start seeing more brewers who are being very cautious about calling their beer a triple, or calling their beer a double, or calling their beer a Kolsch. They'll say Kolsch style because a Kolsch beer can only come from Cologne. An alt beer can only come from Dusseldorf. And I think you're starting to see it with triples and doubles, just honoring the Belgians, that's where those beers come from. Allagash came onto the scene, doing their take on Belgian beers. So I think you'll see them, like they call, the Allagash Wit or the Allagash White, instead of calling it a wit beer, which is the Belgian original. And I think the same goes for triple, but there are certain brewers I think that are trying to honor that. I know Dovetail and Goldfinger both in the Chicago area call their beers Kolsch style or Vienna style, Helles style. So, because they're, they know that it was Germans who came up with these beers, so they call them style. And I think Allagash is likely to be one of the breweries that would do that.
Bussy has a big Belgian tie-in too.
Well, my mom was from Belgium.
Yeah,
She was a
I
war
think,
bride. Yeah.
I think I remember you telling me
Which,
that. once
that's
before.
something,
Yeah.
Jacob, I never even thought about. There's another thing that Bill does.
Oh, yeah.
It's called beer cycling tours in Belgium. You may want to touch on it. It's cool as hell.
I have done them. We just
But you just did one last
recently
year,
did
right?
one in
Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
And are you going to do another
It's
one?
not my company, but I arranged it.
Yeah, you took the trip.
There's a company called Beer Cycling. They're based out of Portland, Oregon, and my wife and I did one together with a couple of friends. I did another one with a friend. They do bicycle tours in Europe where they are, beer centered. So you pay them, they arrange the bicycles, they arrange all the lodging, they have the guides, breakfasts and lunches are included. And the first one we did was like 10 days in Belgium, in West Flanders. The second one was, I think, 6 or 7 days along the French border. And then the one we did in April, which was just kind of I was curious whether or not there were enough people from the Terra Ferment dedicated to put together a private tour with beer cycling, because they will design a tour for you. If you tell them you want to go here and here and here, and you've got enough people, they'll design a tour for you. And but we decided we wanted to see if they would. One of their established tours every April is in the Netherlands, where you were there while all the tulips come into bloom around Amsterdam. And every year they do 2 trips, and it's a 5-day bike trip with a week in between. This year they added a 3rd one in that empty week.
Oh, wow.
And it was 17 of us.
Oh, nice.
Who are all either people who work at Terra Ferment or are customers at Terra Ferment or close friends to customers from Terra Ferment. So we did that in April. I'm not going to get into the gruesome details about how bad the weather was and everything. It's a weird April. Or injuries to certain people. But I think it was successful, and that we found that many people willing to do it. And I had people who said, well, I can't do it this year, but I'd love to do it if you did it again.
Yeah, we talked about it too.
It might be another thing in the future, but it's an easy thing to do. I mean, all you have to do is get yourself there and get yourself home, and everything else is taken care of except usually your dinners.
And you usually hit like 2 or 3 breweries a day, right?
You usually there'll usually be something midway through the day.
Okay.
Because, sometimes you ride up to 40 miles a day, but you're doing that over 7 or 8 hours. So it's not really as daunting as that might sound. But there's always a lunch that's going to include you're going to have a beer or 2. This one, we had 2 dinners that were included at breweries in the Netherlands, and like the meal was included.
Oh, nice.
And they did pairings, and they were bringing out vintage bottles and stuff. It was magnificent.
I retired at the end of June, and I saw that post. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm ready. So let us know if you do it again.
Yeah, I think that may very well happen. I had told people that I think there are 2 tours that they do every year that are very basic tours. They're like short, they're very flat, but you get to go to amazing places like St. Bernardus, like you get to go to Bruges, which is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in. So yeah, it's something that we did as a Terra Ferment thing this time, that if it's done again, I think I would just open it up and hey, people, go to beer cycling and sign up for one. Maybe there'll be somebody from Terra Ferment on your trip with you. I don't know if we'll try to put together a private one again, but yeah. We'll see.
Yeah,
but that's always been a thing I love doing anyway. When I was doing the homebrew club, I used to take day trips to Chicago on the train and take people around and hit like 4 places in the 9 hours between trains. And I love doing that stuff because it's fun to figure out, but it's also easy to get to drink great beers, and then you have 3 hours on the train home.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. So, got to tell us about Troy in high school.
Do I?
Yeah. You're trying to purge that from your memory.
It's
well, the lucky thing is I don't remember much of anything from that.
That's good. Very
So
good.
you guys you were running different
I
circles?
mean, I think we probably did. I mean, he did not live far from me.
No, it's about a block from you.
Yeah, we lived close together, but I think we did kind of have our own immediate friend circle, but the extended friend circle involved each other.
Junior high. And
Junior
Carol
high school
kid.
too. Yeah, and he went to the Catholic
Carol.
school.
You were
I
Carol
did,
too?
I was
No,
not.
he went to junior high.
Oh, okay.
Junior high. Ooh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I
sit
did
on
the
the other
Catholic
side
thing.
of
I'm not a Carol kid. I was St. Joe's. So,
Oh,
you know, but
Well, that doesn't count. So no, I mean, I think most of my memory of Troy, I think, is from the one that's coming to my head. Might have been senior year that we had our free hour together, and we played spades a lot.
Oh, a lot, yeah. We
Yeah,
did.
with other guys in there. We just played cards. Back in the good old days when you could do that. But no, I mean, we were in the same neighborhood, but I think there was that sort of Carroll Catholic
Right.
side of things, and us public school kids.
Yes.
You know,
The scourge.
the scourge of the public schools of Lincoln, Illinois. Hey, my mom
for
taught me that. But no, growing up in Lincoln and Lincoln High School and all that is, you know, it's gone from being a miserable memory to being a wonderful memory because it was a great town to grow up in. You know, I grew up here and left, but not by very far. My parents came here, stayed here, and they're buried here. I mean, they loved this town. And I think the older you get, the more you realize that this is a really great little town.
Mm-hmm.
we moved here over 30 years ago, and I mean, we just fell into it because
Yeah.
I was working Peoria and Colleen was working Springfield, but I can't think of another place I would have raised my kids. I mean,
It was
lovely.
I used to always tell people, it's like, it was a great town to grow up in and a great town to grow old in. In between, maybe not so much. But I mean, I think that part has even shrunk a little bit, in my estimation.
It's been, I mean, the things they're doing downtown now, the third Fridays, we just had the 60th anniversary of the Mustang Car Show on Saturday, filled up, you know, all the way around 3/4 of the square.
Well, just coming
Balloon Fest.
in today and seeing all of the seating you have out on the street. I mean, I know that was a COVID thing originally.
Exactly.
But even in Springfield, that's surviving. That's still happening. I mean, the people who got those because of COVID have kept them, and it does.
The city was really good to us with this too.
Yeah.
I mean, they really helped
They
out.
saw the value in it.
Yeah,
you know,
and
value for us.
so I mean, no, I mean all down the street. What the Alibi?
Alibi has it too.
Alibi has seats. It's like, okay, that's great. So no, this isn't the Lincoln I grew up in, but it's a Lincoln that I could. I mean, we actually years and years and years ago, almost 20 years ago, we looked at a house and looked at maybe moving back here because we saw an amazing house that was for sale and it didn't work out. But there is something that'll, I think, keep you pulled in a little bit here, even if you leave.
Always feels like home a little bit.
A little bit. And yeah, it's always gonna be. I mean, I've lived somewhere else longer than I lived here now, but I mean, the years that I lived here were, you know, pretty important ones.
Well, once you're a railer, you're always a railer.
Oh, let's not get all. Don't know if I was ever a railer.
Oh, if you went to Lincoln High School, you were.
I went to Lincoln High School. I played tennis. That didn't really count.
Well, you were a railer.
See?
Yeah, you're a tennis
I
railer.
do have a letter.
There,
See?
Yeah.
He's a letterman.
I should have brought it.
Lincoln High School letterman.
See, now you can add to your resume, Bill Tubbs, letterman.
No. Yeah, it's down on the third or fourth page.
All right, so our last beer is going to be number 6. It's going to be the older Irving Goat Destroyer Maibach, and goat is in greatest of all time. So, and on this beer, we're going to talk about the Springfield Oyster and Beer Festival coming up at the end of
August 31st. Yeah, I
31st.
think that's right.
It's the Saturday.
It's the
of
Saturday
Labor Day
of Labor Day weekend, and this year it falls on in August instead of September. So I got my cheat sheet out in case you had any
Sweet.
questions.
Perfect.
No, very
Because
good.
And Bill's been involved with it since the inception, right?
I think I came in on like year 3.
Oh, okay.
Year 3.
Okay. All right.
And I used to be very involved in it. I used to arrange all of the breweries and all the distributors in the big tents. And that's where, I brought you guys into it and lots of other ones. But since I opened Terra Ferment, I have literally no spare time. So what I've done now is one of the components of the S.O.B. festival is there's a higher price ticket for the VIP experience, which includes food, a private area. You can go indoors for air conditioning, use the restrooms. And then there are beers available there that aren't available in the big tent. So I was always involved in lining up all the breweries for the festival, but I was also involved in securing things for the VIP. Now Terra Ferment is one of the sponsors of the VIP.
Nice.
Instead of just that being another thing I did there. So now I provide all of the beer that's in the VIP.
Oh, wow.
And in this case, we may have at least 2 brewers who, maybe a third one if they just got their license, who, because they have such small staffs, they can't set up a table out in the big one. They may be setting up in VIP.
Nice.
That would be my very good friends from Scratch Brewing in Southern Illinois may actually be up to pour beers
That would be cool.
in the VIP. A brewery in Staunton called Mississippi Culture, who just opened a year ago.
Oh, okay.
And he did a bottle share at the bar on my 4th anniversary. He may come up and serve in there, and I'm still talking with Goldfinger from Downers Grove about coming down and either being in the big tent or being in the VIP. But then there's also beers from breweries that I know can't come. So I will feature their beers. I think this year we are going to have Art History from Geneva, Illinois, and Azadi Brewing, which is in Chicago. So we'll have their beers, and Is Was Brewing, which is another Chicago brewer, and Dovetail from Chicago will donate a keg of something for the VIP as well. So breweries that their reasons to come to a beer festival in Springfield are less than someone who is nearby or distributed here. So that's the kind of thing I put in the VIP. I also will bust out things from my cellar.
Nice.
Like on every hour, I'll pull out something that I've kept for some ungodly number of years, and I don't know why. And hopefully it'll be okay.
We used, we used to make the farmhouse ales were your favorite.
Oh yeah, still are.
So the VIP tent, you have timed releases, like you'll do certain points in the day, right?
Yeah, there are certain things that are going to be available throughout the day, and you'll know it in advance what's being released. And that's usually something that either I have squirreled away, or, I mean, I've had people donate them before. Yes. I know one thing we have that we're going to open up at one of those hours this year is a bottle of like a Magnum Anchor Brewing, which just closed and is now being reopened.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is their Christmas ale from like 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Somebody donated a bottle of it. They said as long as I get them into the VIP section, they will give me this.
Well,
which I'm doing.
Do the brewers get in the VIP section?
You know, it's always been a big debate, but we'll talk about that when we're done here.
Because we're always there early. We get there. We're old. We get there early.
We get there early.
Well, you shouldn't say that's why you're there.
Oh,
yeah.
But I mean, one of the advantages of a VIP ticket is that you get in a half hour before everyone else.
That's true.
And I always tell people, if you have a VIP ticket, spend that half hour in the big tent before it gets to be a zoo out there, because it will.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can always come into the VIP section and it's never going to be rushed and crazy in there because the tickets are a lot more expensive. We only sell so many of them. So yeah, that I'm still working on that. I gotta
Very cool.
trying to line up my stuff.
Work in progress.
Yep,
Work in
always
progress.
is.
So let's talk about the VIP we talked about. Let's talk about out in the Big Tent. How many brewers do you usually have on a S.O.B?
The average has always been about 50.
50 brewers.
And,
breweries in one festival. That's pretty good.
Distributors too.
And distributors, if necessary. I mean, it's not something that honestly, the distributors don't like doing it either. But we will do it if a brewery says, it's like, well, yeah, we'd really like to be there, but we can't physically be there. We would much rather have the brewers there pouring their own beer so they can talk to the people, because that's how this works. But sometimes that's just not possible, so we'll have a table for a distributor because their brewers want their beer down here. And I think that may happen a bit more this year because some major breweries from the Chicago area have hooked up with downstate distributors for the first time. So we may have a little bit more of a distributor presence than usual, but no, it's pretty astonishing. I mean, every year, that I've been involved in it, we plan and we plan and we plan, and you just think about how many things can go wrong, and you think about how much there is still left to do. And the day of, you look up and there's these big empty tents and everybody starts flowing in, and it just works. It just works every time.
Well, and it is a charity event.
Yep.
So do you guys pick a different charity every year?
Yes, it's a different charity every year. Okay. This year, the recipient is the Legacy Theater in Springfield. I think they started in 2011. I looked that up on the way here.
Smooth.
But they're literally a block away from the site where the festival takes place. And so the Legacy Theater, oysters. I don't care.
But it is a big thing.
Probably shouldn't say that, but it is the Springfield Oyster and Beer Festival. Yes. So yes, there are lots of oysters, 6,000 oysters.
And Karen's always over there on the cooking the oysters.
I feel so bad for those people. My goodness, they just sit there all day cooking for a bunch of drunk people. So
hey, wait a minute, I'm one of them.
Beer zombies.
No, you're a supplier. You're a supplier.
It depends on the hour.
We don't talk about what goes on behind the brewer's table.
Fair enough.
So this year, okay, I'm just going to get some stuff off of here.
Yeah.
All right.
Tickets are already available, SOBfestival.com. Physical tickets are going to become available on August 1st.
Okay.
You can buy them at Obed and Isaacs in Springfield. I'm going to have VIP tickets available at Terra Ferment.
Okay, cool.
$40 is the general admission, $85 is the VIP. You get a glass, unlimited samples. You've got VIP gets you in at 11:30 instead of 12. A special commemorative glass this year for VIP.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Gosh, I wonder if I'll get one. Your food is.
You mean you wonder if I'll steal one?
I'm gonna get it. Okay. What's that? Leftovers from last year. Yeah, you might see those out there too. VIP also includes food, and you have an area away from all of the others. And then you get a voucher if you get a VIP ticket to go get oysters if you want oysters.
Oh, really?
Which is something that I think they worked on. What? Indoor bathrooms, everyone.
Yes. Air-conditioned indoor.
Air-conditioned indoor.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I use that one too.
So there are two bands that will play. Me, myself, and Sky, is it? They're the first band, and then the Alina Rollins band. Rain or shine. The tents are 40 by 100 feet long.
Lots of brewers.
Lots of room, lots of brewers.
We had a big rain one year.
Yes, that was brutal.
3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
though, it wasn't bad. We got wet from like the mid-calf down.
It was a
that's where
deluge, man. It was running everywhere.
but
You made
it
a lot
was
of you made a
splashed up
lot
on
of
it.
very close friends. Out of the tent
yes,
that
yes,
day.
you
I
did.
remember.
Yes, you did.
50 brewers, locals, blah blah blah, oysters, food trucks, Euro Stop, Mad Dog Concessions, and Twyford Barbecue, and charity this year's Legacy of the Legacy Theater.
And Limerick Brewing Company will be.
Oh, we will be there.
And they will be the first ones there to set up.
Yes, we will.
Because
Because we're-
they're just that way.
Because we're
If you're 10 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
there's that. Because we're old.
And we want a certain table.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, always the same general area.
Yep.
I mean, which is a good area because you're in the first tent
And we got a tree behind us.
and you got a tree.
Yes,
For
Shade.
oh, okay. I was going to say whatever you
We're
need a
under
tree
tent.
for.
We don't need the tree.
Huh?
The tree's for to dump the spit bucket.
Well, that too.
Mostly. You didn't want to hear that.
Hey, spit buckets. They've got to be dumped.
Well, the one thing we always do at beer shows, we always take a keg of water.
Yeah,
and rinse
absolutely.
We
people's
rinse
glasses.
every glass before
So
we pour our
it's-
beer.
Yeah, our spit bucket.
we started doing that when I was pouring for the homebrew club. I thought it's like, okay, we've got this jockey box that has all these connections. Like, why not fill a keg with water for rinsing?
That's what we do.
Because getting the pitchers refilled and everything can be a bit of a chore. I wish more people would thought of doing
Well,
that.
the way we look at it, we don't want to pour our beer on somebody else's and then they go, oh, that tastes like crap.
Well,
you
when
know?
somebody comes up to you and they were like, "Hey, I want to try that, like the Mexican lager,"
Mm-hmm.
and there's a purple substance in the bottom of the glass, it's like, oh, yeah, it's good.
You're not going to get a good taste.
Yeah, and it's okay. It was probably a good sour or something else, but it's like, yeah, that ain't gonna mix well. So
Don't want to mix.
But if it's after 4 o'clock, nobody
Oh,
Yeah.
that's when the beer zombies
Beer
show
stars,
up.
yeah,
What do you got? Don't care. Give it to me.
Yes. That's
Bill-
what beer festivals are all about, folks.
yeah, well, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Bill, thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
We
Glad
appreciate
to be
it.
here.
Thank-
Glad
thank-
to be
thank
here.
you.
Thank
And that's another episode of Sips. It was probably better because Colleen wasn't here.
It's nap
Colleen-
time
Colleen
for
who?
Colleen, and she just couldn't make it.
What happened to her again?
Colleen, I don't know. Who's Colleen?
Somebody admitted to killing her earlier.
Thank you all for coming in for another episode of Sips. And cilantro.
Thanks for watching. Now go grab yourself a ticket or two and come see us at the Springfield Oyster and Beer Festival on August 31st. And be sure to visit Bill at Terra Ferment to discover your next favorite beer.